Hello friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time. And it's time for another This and That video. And for those of you who are new, my This and That videos are just about helping people to see what I've got going on my channel, to direct you back towards older videos that show you how to do some of the things I have going on here, and also for updates on projects that people have been following me along with in previous videos. So what I'm going to start with today is I just started this batch of fermented eggs yesterday, and I do have a video on just making a basic fermented egg, and you can find that one right up here. And this one I used, you can see the color in there. Let me do a close-up. And I've got red pepper flakes, some fresh rosemary from the garden, and some garlic, and a little bit of salt in there. And for the rosemary, what I did was I chopped and cut it. I didn't throw it in whole. And I kind of really mashed it a little bit like I've been doing with my teas lately, just so I can really release the flavors of the rosemary into the eggs, because I'm finding I really, really like this combination here the best, the garlic, rosemary, and red pepper. And I decided to not poke the eggs anymore because somebody mentioned this in another comment on a previous one. Some people like to poke their eggs all the way through, the flavor gets through, and it does help, but it doesn't help enough to make it worth it, because I did find that the yolks, even though they're done, these are hard-boiled eggs, do try to kind of seep out through and they get a little mushy. So I'm just leaving them intact, no holes poked, and it should be ready in a couple of days. Now, some uses for your fermented eggs are, you know, if you could either just eat them as is, but the fermented as opposed to the pickling with vinegar is a really good option for preserving some of your excess eggs, because they'll last in the refrigerator for quite a long time this way. And they're handy for, let's say you want to throw together a potato salad. I mean, it's summertime, we're doing barbecues and stuff, and you decide you want a quick potato salad. You just grab a jar of your home canned potatoes and pull out, you can get a couple of your hard-boiled eggs. You don't have to go boil a bunch of eggs. You just pull them out of here. You don't even have to peel them. They're ready to go, and chop them up. I did that the other day, threw together a quick potato salad, and it was so great. And the fermented eggs don't have that sour flavor the way they would if you were doing it with vinegar, so they blend really well with anything. They just taste like a hard-boiled egg, a somewhat salted, lightly salted, hard-boiled egg. And then if you add any flavorings to your ferment, like the rosemary, garlic, and pepper, you get a little bit more of that flavoring into the egg, and it just makes it that much better. The only big difference I've found between just eating a hard-boiled egg fresh after boiling it and fermenting it first is that the white gets a little firmer, and I'm actually liking it better that way. So this is really my favorite way to eat eggs out of any method, whether it be scrambled or fried or whatever. The fermented eggs are my very favorite. All right, some other things going on is yesterday, this is going to be ready to go in the fridge pretty soon, I started a batch of, let's see, what all is in this? It's rhubarb, this is all garden stuff, red clover, you can see a red clover right in here, some pansies and petunias, all in there for my water kefir. And again, that should be ready later today, but I have some blackberry water kefir I need to finish up first before I can start on this. So it'll just go in the fridge. It will continue to ferment in the refrigerator. You know, you just kind of want to keep an eye on it. I've found that my latest ones, as long as I, try to within 3 to 4 days drink them up, they're usually pretty good in that time frame. They start to get a little more tart over time and lose any sweetness if they're left in there, because the bacteria and yeast in there is going to continue feeding on the sugar that's in there, so it will get less sweet over time. So it depends on your taste. So that's why I do like being several days ahead on this, because I don't like it too sweet, but I also like to drink it before it goes completely, all the sweetness is gone from it. And then here is, I also started yesterday, is my next batch of vinegar that I'm going to be continuing to add more to this as things come along. Like I'm going to put a little more rhubarb in here. So this is rhubarb and pansy vinegar. I think that's all I threw in here. I didn't put any red clover or petunias in this. So I'll be adding more pansies and more rhubarb as it goes along, but at least I got it started. And for those of you who are maybe watched my old vinegar videos, I recommend you see the way I'm doing it now. It's yielding a much stronger, far more acidic vinegar. I would say it's definitely got to be comparable to store-bought because I did a pH test. It is 5% acidity, which is your typical store-bought vinegar. And I noticed the difference when I'm using it both on my hair, for cleaning and everything. It's great. I'm loving it. And it's definitely way more sour, more tart, much more flavor. So I don't need to use as much of it when I'm using it on my hair. I can just use a little bit mixed with about 6-7 ounces of water, and then I just squirt it on my hair, and that's what I wash my hair with, and it works great. So that will be going in the other room where I've got my other vinegars. As you can see, I'm not keeping them all out on my counter anymore because I think this is number 7 right now that I have going. And as the summer progresses, I'll have more and more. And so, yeah, I can't keep them all right here. And because I'm using the stir method now, I need to keep them in sight so I remember to stir them. And then right here is the fermentation starter I used in my eggs. And I do have a video on how you can make your own using any fruit that you have on hand, and even some herbs. Like ginger is excellent for making a fermentation starter. Now this is my blueberry one. These blueberries are from last year. Now that the blueberries are going to be getting ripe here real soon, I'm going to actually take these berries out. I'm going to save this and then add some fresh berries in. So that will work pretty good because I find fresh fruits work best for making a fermentation starter or even a vinegar than using frozen. So that will all be able to revive here soon. It's actually working great right now. I just want to get some fresh fruit in there. And then you can see here I have a big old pile of sage. I already have some of it stacked on my trays. I have 3 huge sage bushes, and they're really just exploding this year. And for the first time, I have one of them that's starting to flower. Now the reason it's mine, even though I've been growing it for years and it's always done really well, the reason mine have never had a chance to flower is because I'm always harvesting on it. But now that I have so much sage growing, I don't need to harvest as much. And so I'm actually allowing that one to go to flowers because I'm really curious. I've never got to see it in bloom, and I'm pretty excited about that. And I may go ahead and save some seeds off it while I'm at it. So what I'm doing with this is I just pull them off like this when I'm harvesting it, and then break the big stem bunch off of there and just throw them on my trays. Now these, I know I've talked about the Nesco Dehydrator again. It's my personal favorite. I've never used the Excalibur. I've just always had the Nesco. I've been using the same one I was using it for 15 years, and it still works. I just finally threw out the bottom tray thing, you know, with the feet, because it got broken up. But I got it at an auction. I found another one at a garage sale last year for $3, and I had also previously bought another brand new one just as a backup. And so I have 3 great motors, and I have all these trays. Now I recommend getting these, they're called Clean-A-Screen, and you can get the best price on them when you buy it's a pack of 2 through Amazon through the Subscribe and Save program, where you can save, I think, up to 15%. Some things you can only save 5 or 10%, but you also have to order like 5 items per month. But you can change that up anytime, even right up until just before your order. They'll give you a final date, and you can say, I don't want this now, and remove it. As long as you have 5 different items in there, you can get up to 15% off of your purchases. So I got a really good deal, and I went ahead and ordered two packs because I was needing more of these screens. And so I will link to those below, and also to the dehydrator that I use. So I'm going to go ahead and finish that later and not do all this in front of you, but I wanted to say I'll also be doing a video on sage and its health benefits and medicinal benefits, because it has quite a few. But just as a starter, just to give you a little taste, sage is very closely related to rosemary. They both have rosmarinic acid in them, and that's where they get most of your medicinal benefits are coming from that. And so, if you know that rosemary is good for your hair, it's also very good in your cognitive ability. Sage also is as well. And this is why I like using sage and rosemary essential oils in anything I'm going to, you know, in the oil that I like to put on my scalp in the morning right after I wash my hair. I also like to add it to the vinegars. When I get a chance, I like to add the fresh rosemary to the vinegars I'm making that I'm going to be using as a hair wash. But it also makes a good vinegar for cleaning with as well, just like the cedar and the juniper. So just a little taste of what's to come. I'll be talking about it more in depth in a video coming up soon. I'm just waiting for that rosemary to bloom so I can go out there and show it in bloom while I'm talking about it. I thought that would be kind of cool. So be watching for that coming down the road. Okay, and a couple more things I have going on today is I just emptied out this jar again of my dried herbal tea blend. This is all herbs from my garden. You can see the video on the blend that I made this last year right up here. And actually, I think the one I emptied out here is the last of my 2016 blend. And so now I'm finally able to move on to the 2017. So this is vacuum sealed using my brake bleeder. I have a lot of videos showing how I use the brake bleeder. And so you can see it's still sealed from last summer. And then I'm just going to open this up and dump it in here. And then this is the jar I like to keep out here because I like the cool lids for out where they're visible. And then I'll be finally getting started on 2017, and here I am dehydrating up a lot of herbs for my next batch of herbal tea blend. So I'm doing pretty good because I think I have like 6 more jars besides this one. So that's 7 jars, 7-quart jars of my herbal tea blend from last year. And then the last thing I have going on over here is I always keep 2 of these jars of my powdered laundry soap. And this one's empty, so it's time to refill it. So I've got to get busy making my laundry detergent, and I use my own homemade soap. It's just 2 ingredients in my laundry detergent: homemade soap and washing soda. That's all I use. I used to use the borax, but I found that the borax is really hard on anything that has elastic in it. It will degrade your elastic, so in your under things or whatever it is you have that has elastic in it, it will break it down really fast. So I don't recommend going with borax, but I find using the homemade soap and the washing soda to work really well. And I used to make a liquid one too, and I have a video on the liquid one, but my favorite one now is the powdered. It works great whether I'm using it in my off-grid laundry system or in my electric washing machine. And I'll go ahead and link to that video right up here. Okay, and I think, oh, there was one more thing I wanted to mention. I keep forgetting to say about uses for vinegar. Every time I talk about uses for vinegar, this is the one thing I always seem to leave out, is I always add it to the chickens' water. I find my chickens are just healthiest when I go to change out their water. So I keep a couple of bottles of vinegar right out there in the coop. When I change out their water, I pour a little of my homemade vinegar right into the chickens' into their water, and I find they just seem to always look and be healthiest whenever I add that in there. And so that's another one of the many uses I have for my homemade vinegar. And I don't use, though I kind of have a little bit of specifics, like usually my more floral vinegars, anything with sage and lavender, because lavender is really good for hair growth. Those are going to be the ones I most typically will use on my hair, but I will use anything that's available. If I run out of those, then whatever I have left, whether it be apple vinegar, pear vinegar, peach vinegar, those will be used on my hair. Those will be used for cleaning. Those will be used for cooking. Those will be used for adding to breads, and the chicken's water, and even the dog's water. I put a little bit in there. I have to be careful because a little bit, otherwise they won't drink the water. But it's really good for them. Using it for making vitamin extracts and things like that, using herbal extracts I should say with the vinegar. It's just so many uses. So if you haven't gotten into making your own vinegar yet, I'll go ahead and link to my last video right up here showing how I'm making it now. Alright, well that's it for my this and that for today. So I hope you enjoyed this video and that you learned something new. Thanks for watching. Take care. and God bless.